Hello and welcome to the Reconnect podcast, a weekly show sponsored by the Anasazi Foundation and powered by Sturry Studios. I'm Ganel-Lyn Condie, your host. I'm so grateful you've joined us, where we have conversations to help you strengthen your most important relationships and reconnect with those that matter most. Hi, I'm Ganel-Lyn Condie. Welcome to the Reconnect podcast. We are here at the Sturry Studios and we are powered by the Anasazi Foundation. We are so grateful to have you join us. If you're new to the Reconnect podcast, welcome. You're in for a treat today. My friend Scott is here today, and Scott has quite the Wikipedia page, by the way. If anyone,
Really?
Yes, I printed it off.
Wikipedia?
Yeah, I could pull it out.
Wow.
You have a full, filmography list, and your personal stuff is out there.
Wow.
I thought you were monitoring or editing it.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I think I may have done something with it years ago, but I forgot that. Because it's like anyone can contribute. I
Yes.
guess that's the point of Wikipedia,
Yeah,
right?
but it's a problem because that means anyone can.
Contribute. Right, and so
There was nothing
that's the
scary
problem
on
with
your page.
anything on
I know,
Wikipedia,
I
right?
know.
Is that, and anything on the internet,
Right.
for that matter. This may not actually be real. What we're doing is
Maybe a dream sequence.
right. You can't believe anything that comes
No,
out
I'm
of her
actually
mouth.
sweating right now, so I know it's real because
Yeah.
they have to turn the AC off for the sound, and so this is, a little toasty in here. And we're in the middle of
That
July.
sweating, it's real, reminds me of that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was called the one where he's in space, and what's that called?
Can I offend Arnold? I actually...
You
Anything
didn't
that
see it?
Scott's in, I've seen. Anything Arnold's in, not so much.
Well, he thinks he's in a dream, and he looks over, the guy's trying to convince him that he's in a dream, and then he sees the guy sweating. And then he knows he's not.
it's real.
And then
Is it Alien? Is he an alien?
no.
Total Recall.
Thank you, Moose. What's his name?
Mole.
Mole.
Mole is our camera guy. You don't ever get to see him. And he
Wow.
lets me hug him resistant hugs.
Oh, does he?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
pushes back.
Well,
He stiffens up.
I've been doing hug therapy with Mole for a few months, so he's
Oh.
warming to the fact. So,
Nice.
okay, Scott,
Yeah.
please tell people how they can find you. I always say that at the end.
Oh.
But Scott is an actor, an
Mm-hmm.
author, a father, a husband. Can I ask a little backstory? Because I don't know. I like to do a little research, but not too much, because I like to have it be a
Sure.
real conversation. I don't know.
I don't care what you ask me. I will answer anything
Oh, here
short
we-
of my social security number. That's pretty much it.
What made you decide this kind of difficult path of acting?
You just do what you know you were born to do.
And you knew it.
Well, yes,
At
since
what
I was
age?
a little kid, 2 or 3 years old.
Your
I knew.
parents were like, how do we raise him? Because he wants to be...
Well, I was raised by a single mom, by a divorced
Okay,
mom with 4
same.
kids.
We have this in
Okay.
common.
So I knew that I wanted to be an actor, and she said, well, if you're going to do that, you got to be in plays in school. You have to kind of
She
just
did?
follow the route that you do. We lived in Michigan, but when we finally moved out to Utah for personal reasons, I knew that I was, 1,900 miles closer to LA or whatever the distance was. And I was only 11 at the time. But
Was
I thought,
Utah the kind of hub of film industry? Because
No,
it really
Utah
is
was the hub
big.
of Mormons.
Okay. The Osmonds.
So I was
The
just...
Osmond Studio in Provo, they did some filming there.
They built it just as we moved here.
Yeah,
And I
and that was
so
kind of
excited.
I know.
I lived in Orem. I went down.
Did you visit it? I visited
Oh, yeah. I went
it.
through on a tour, and I
Yeah.
was like, I wanted to be there with the ice follies. I wanted to, I got to see the handprints in the cement. They had just done them.
You run into an
You're not
Osmond?
as old as me, though.
Oh, yes.
I don't think so.
I think so.
What year were you born?
I'll tell. I'm 48.
No, you're not as old.
My
Okay.
husband's 51.
He's still not as old.
Okay.
But,
Well,
but that's neither here nor there.
we
because
have an era
I
where we
play
share.
younger.
Okay. And I play older.
Unless they want me to be old, then I'm like, dude, I'm 52. Look, can't you tell?
See, you're only a few years. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
heading. I'm
Yeah.
on the downward slope. But it was a big deal. And now, with Sundance and, we've got some film
Oh, no, yeah.
roots now.
We moved
but at the
here, and at the time, I was reading the Great Brain series. Did you ever
Oh,
read those books?
yes.
And then Jimmy Osmond starred as the Great Brain, and they did this
Yes.
production. And out of the 5,000 little boys that came to the Hotel Utah with a picture and a smile,
Jimmy Osmond?
they selected me and another kid to be like one of the main roles, like Jimmy's brother in the movie. And they basically said to my mom, they said, your son's the best actor we've seen, but he just doesn't look the part at all. This kid that he's up against looks exactly like Jimmy Osmond, and he's perfect aged, blah, blah, blah. And we can direct him. He's just not as talented. And so we just waited to see what they would do. And it was my first lesson in the film industry. They always go with looks. They always go with looks. Oh, yeah. Stage work, I can get a job like that. But in movies, they say, you know what, if you have a modicum of ability to open your mouth and speak, especially as a kid, the director can manipulate and marionette you to get a performance. And I'm not saying this kid wasn't good. He was good, as I recall. He was fine. But it was my first lesson of, after all of that... Rejection. But that was, 42 years ago, 41 years ago. And it's pretty much been similar throughout. And I don't regret it, because I know that God has kind of guided me where I'm supposed to be. And there are way more important things than any career, truly.
For real. And if you haven't had the gift, like our family, of losing a job and everything and starting over, if you've had that gift, and I call it a gift.
I was going to say.
Because it bears your life down to the minimum
absolute
necessity.
Requirement. Right.
And you look at each other as a family and go, we're good. We like each other. Then you know what? You can kind of go through anything.
I'm always underemployed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no one looks at an actor and says, oh, you're not worried. You're not worried about a job.
Everyone will always say, how are things?
Yes.
Are you doing okay? Yes, we're wonderful.
Because you've lived.
I'm home a lot. There's reasons for me to be home right now. There's a lot of issues with people and family and stuff.
Yes.
Everyone has things that we carry around that are a burden.
The seasons that God's like, hey, listen, we're going to quiet it down. And you're going to refocus
It's not going to be very busy. This is where I need you to be. And so it's working.
How did you, I think this is perfect for the Reconnect podcast, because how did you start to learn at a young age that your worth wasn't dependent on an audition?
Well, I don't know if I've even learned that yet.
Because I'm asking the question because I want you to teach me, and I'm 48. So please teach me.
Well, for me personally, I was the son of a divorcee, right?
Right.
With no dad in the house.
So you were trying to figure out your identity.
Exactly. And so I connected really with other kids that were in a similar boat, who had dysfunctional or broken homes. And so we kind of clung together. Now, this is in Orem in the late 70s, early 80s.
Which it's a small group, you guys.
You didn't think there were that many, but there were still back then enough.
The marginalized.
Right. We were kind of marginalized, and you always felt a little intimidated by other peop's dads and the fact that they owned homes,
family.
they had cars, they could
Sunday
afford
dinner.
phone, toilet paper. There's just so many things. We grew up with Deseret labels on our food for a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that as a slight to my mother.
Which, for those
she
that don't know,
attorney,
that's help for food and
help
goods.
for food, right? Yeah.
Your mom was an attorney.
Well, not, but after I grew up and after she so what I'm saying is she raised us and said, my priority is here raising these kids.
So they're not doing drugs and joining
and
the gang.
if we have to be poor, we'll be poor. And then once I was safely on my mission to Spain, she went right into law school and chased her dreams and did great.
Maybe we should have your mom on the Reconnect podcast.
She's amazing if she'll...
Just single mother in it?
Yeah.
And then law school?
Yeah.
Had you been acting all through high school and junior high
yes.
too?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I was lucky enough to have gone
Class
to...
of Orem High?
Mountain View High School, class of 84.
Sorry, don't get sending me the angry mail because don't confuse the two high schools.
No, it's fine. Well, Timpanogos is later. No, but we had a real blessing of having a gentleman there by the name of Charles Lynn Frost, who was just spectacular as a theater director of high school kids. And he came along right during my junior year, the beginning of my junior year. He was a new teacher. And there was another drama teacher who was like a wrestling coach, and everybody thought he was great because he just played videos for class. And on the day of registration, there's Mr. Frost just sitting there. No one knows who he is. No one's signing up. And I said, are you a theater teacher? Yes, I am. Do you know what you're doing? Yes, I do. He said, what do you want to be? I said, well, I want to be an actor. I've always wanted to be an actor. He said, well, you better take my class. So I signed up with him, and he proceeded to put me, and he cast me as the star of all 4 or 6 plays that were over the next couple of years, because I was the one who identified himself as being the guy who's going to be an actor. And I like to think that I earned it. He said, but later after I graduated, he said, I did make you audition. I put you through the process. I made you work. He said, but not only was I going to cast you in those roles, but I set up those
Roles,
plays for you to
specifically.
do, because each one built on the next and it stretched you further and further and further. So with that guy kind of guiding me, I got scholarship offers from all over the place.
Listen, let me pause and shout out for all the great teachers in the world.
Amen, sister.
Oh my gosh. Like,
Yeah.
especially for a kid that's going through divorce or single parenting or anything. Miss Kraus. Like, if
Wow,
that's
the
not a
German.
For
Miss
real.
Kraus.
Yes. Fourth grade teacher
Jawohl.
changed my life. I sent her my first book with a dedication. And I just said, you have no, and she's like, what? I said,
Who
"You're-"
is this?
Yes. No, she knew. With a name like Ganel-Lyn, are you kidding me, Scott?
Yeah, where does that come
Oh,
from?
that's a whole nother podcast.
Okay, all right. I'll
But
look
I'm
for
going to
it.
say to you, she let me know at that point that she expected big stuff
That's
from all of
awesome.
her students. And I reached for that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I was like, wait, Miss Kraus thinks I'm smart? I must be smart.
Yeah.
So your teacher literally
A little bit of
said-
validation from someone
a
you
little push.
respect, and
Yeah.
it goes a long
And teachers
way.
do not get paid what they need to get paid, and they're not appreciated in the way they
Yeah.
need to. And so any chance I can do a shout out. I went on to get a teaching degree mainly because of Miss Kraus. I was like, well, I don't know what, I want to be Oprah,
Yeah.
but I think I should probably get a teaching degree first.
Yeah, you got to do what's
Yeah.
smart for you
Yeah,
and then
so-
for your
yeah,
family.
which I
right?
think I'm still a teacher in what
Yeah.
I'm doing. But yeah, so what scholarship went out? Where'd you go?
So I was a local boy, so I went to BYU
Okay.
back when the bar was
Which-
really low.
Really?
I mean, I had terrible grades. I was a horrible
Whatever, but
student.
the theater program at BYU
It was
is-
great. I loved it. I loved
It's
all of the
intense.
professors, and I started in acting,
Okay.
and then I realized I didn't really want to learn acting because I just wanted to be in the plays and just do acting.
Because you are a character actor.
Well,
Is that what you would
no,
call?
I don't.
Is that not?
I'm in the weird Tom Hanks zone
Okay.
where I'm so unbelievably ordinary, but not so much that I have charactery features or anything like that. But I'm also not like leading man type. And that's been hard is for my agents to try to find what
But
they can
couldn't
pitch me
you
as.
play
You know?
Tom Hanks in the Tom Hanks movie?
Well, yes, I could play anything that
Let's
Tom Hanks did because.
do that. Tell your PR rep to call me, your agent, and we need to start writing that movie because
Yeah.
everyone wants to
Well,
know how Tom Hanks became Toy Story 4.
Unfortunately, I wouldn't actually play Tom until he's in his 50s because I'd have to. I couldn't
you're
do
right.
young
You're-
Tom. I'd
you're
be in the
right.
movie about as much as I'm in any movie these days, which is like 3 scenes.
Because you're the guy that we want to have as our neighbor. You're the funny guy. You're the smart guy. You're the good dad. You're the what? But you also, I've seen you take on some character roles that, like you said,
Sort of, but I can do characters. I can do voices. I can do accents. I can do all of that. But there's so many other actors out there. There's a million actors born every day.
Yes.
And there's so many of them that already have the look of a character actor. They're short, they're fat, they're tall, they're thin. They have huge noses, they have tiny noses, they have one blue eye, one brown eye. Those are sort of charactery things.
Okay. See what you learned
And
here
I
on the
can't-
Reconnect podcast?
So but most of the other films that I've done, whether Hailstorm type films
Yeah.
or whatever, I generally just play myself.
Okay.
Because I'm comfortable with me and I know exactly how I would react. And if I always, John Christian Plummer wrote most of the Granite Flats episodes. And I would tell him, because they would say, gosh, you just come off so great. And I said, it's the writers, and there's a team of writers and the producers help write. But if it's written well, all
can
you
do
have
it.
to do
Yes.
is memorize it.
Yes.
And then just be in the moment and feel it. I had a guy come up to me in the temple today, an old gentleman. A lot of people will approach me.
I know. Do you love that or
No,
not?
no, I'm used to it. It's
Okay.
neither love nor hate. It's just
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And he said, I want to know how you cry on cue. How do you make yourself cry?
And
And I said, well, I don't make myself cry.
you feel what you're saying.
Exactly. I said, here's the caveat. If it's written well, you're in the moment, and if you're a decent actor, you're just playing the character. And if it feels like that character should be crying, you can get the tears going. You can make it happen. But if it's written poorly and it feels forced, then you gotta blow in your eyes
yes.
or hold them wide open
Yes.
or do something. I generally don't do that. I think I can still make myself cry.
So you're an authentic
Or worse, you
actor.
think of something sad.
So good.
I met my wife the old-fashioned,
Okay.
awesome way at a dance. Because we would go dancing, me and my friends, that was our whole way of living in the 80s was
Yes.
dancing. And I met her at
Is
an
that back
outside
when they
dance.
had the clubs on
Oh,
Center
yes.
Street in Provo?
Yes, the Palace.
Yeah.
Or that one on Center Street was Plastique.
That's right.
Then they had the Bay up here in Salt Lake.
That's
they
right.
had a Xenon.
That's right.
And we
with all
went
the
to
flashing
all of
lights.
them. And then we went to all of the church dances all over
Yes.
BYU campus,
'Cause
all the
that's
stake
kept
dances.
everything going. And when you met your wife, I know her. She
Oh, you did meet her. That's
yes,
right. Yeah.
she's not. She's a balancing fact. She's the roots
yeah.
in your trees.
We're different.
Yes.
We're different. We have that whole synergy.
Yes.
1 + 1 = 3, right?
Yes.
Or better. And
she encourages, embraces.
oh,
your
she hates
path.
what I do.
Oh.
No, I mean, she encourages it and she supports me, but in terms of her ever actually, she can't, it makes her nervous to think about me doing anything because she's just so petrified of audiences and live microphones. This isn't live.
Yeah.
When I was in radio, she didn't like, I mean, it's just the idea that
Yeah.
I'm every morning.
And I am married to that as well.
Oh.
And he had to give a presentation at work, and it was like a month and a half of I do 3 speaking events a week on a minimum, right?
Yeah.
Right. And it was a month of recovery afterwards, and he was just like, "How do you do this all?" And I'm like, "Never mind 5-minute live TV, where you never know what might come out of my mouth,
right.
right?" But I love that. I tell my son who's dating and in that search for his partner,
Yeah.
I say to him all the time, find someone that makes you want to be your better self, but that doesn't mean you're going to see the world and agree and vote the same and feel passionate. My husband does not want to analyze a movie for 3 hours like I do,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But I love that he helps me become who I am,
Right.
and I've helped him become who he is. And I think there's this perception out there in the world right now, in the Hollywood version of dating, is that you find a partner that shares your passion.
Everything in common.
You're all doing yoga
Yeah.
together, and you meditate
Right.
together. And if you don't, and you're not vegan, then forget it, right?
Yeah. You're both ninja warriors.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you work out together.
I'm so glad I'm not married to a CrossFit person. Sorry, vegan CrossFitters that are eating keto. I don't even know.
Wow,
right?
you just included 3 whole groups of people right there.
I ostracized
have to
half
apologize.
my demographic, and I'm saying yay for you. It's just they tend to
but-
be passionate, and
yeah.
if you're not living like them, then it's offensive.
But you work out or something, right? Or do you have just
Ew.
genes? I mean, what?
No, I'm throwing every dart at the dartboard.
Yeah,
What are you
okay,
hoping half stick?
Well, except for keto and
At 40,
CrossFit
at
and-
48, I'm throwing every dart to just kind of not go into the grave. I mean, it's not
yeah.
even to.
I run so I can eat whatever I want.
Exactly.
I mean,
It's
that's
not
it.
to look good in a bathing suit. It's
Oh,
to be
have-
alive.
I haven't taken my shirt off at a pool in 15 years.
Is it a little white underneath?
It's
all
white
that?
and flat. I just wear shirts because I don't want to get burned, you know. But it's because I look like a big seal.
All the nudist colony people. I don't want to offend you either, but why? Like we don't want
Wow.
to see that. We don't.
We
wanna
turned a
see
corner,
it.
didn't we?
Okay, so back to my producer's like, what? How do I edit this? So this is the thing I'm saying is you married.
Does your producer edit? Or doesn't all of this make it?
Some of it does until you
Oh,
know.
it has to. It's gold, baby.
Yeah, if I
Yeah.
sneeze. So she really was like encouraging, but that's not her passion. Which there are families out there that 2 actors marry each other, and that's a lot of whoa.
Yeah,
That's a lot of auditioning.
I have a few friends that are like that. A couple, I can think of a few couples
Yeah.
that come to mind, and they're still together and,
And
they're
they
doing
are.
great. But yeah, and maybe I would have done great with an actress, and she would have done better with someone else. I don't know, but we've made it over 30 years now,
High five.
and it's awesome. Yeah, we do
Yeah.
complement each other.
And how many children?
5 boys. Yeah,
Yes, but now daughter-in-laws.
one daughter-in-law
Yes.
at the moment.
You're
Yeah.
heading into the daughter-in-laws.
That's the idea.
And how are you?
We'll see.
You know what? Parenting baby adults. I may have to have you come back to talk about that. That is a mind trip. I know the toddler parents are like, really? We just want them to sleep and stay in their beds. And I'm like, great. But guess what? They don't have car keys.
Yeah.
And they don't
Oh.
think they're adults.
I would give anything to go
Right.
back to handling
Right.
the stress of a kid climbing out of his crib in the
Or
middle
not
of
eating the
night.
broccoli. And
Yeah.
I'm like, for
Whoopie-doo.
real.
Putting pool balls down
Yes.
the toilet. I mean,
I remember being sleep deprived, walking through grocery stores, and grandmas would come up and go, "Oh dear, it goes so fast." And I think, no, it's not going fast enough. Now I'm just like, if I had control.
yeah.
You're like kind of an advisor once in a while, and they don't really.
Yeah.
And they're baby adults,
Once
and that
in a-
frontal cortex is not actually fully developed till 25, and they're
Right.
making these big life decisions.
Yeah.
I tell my 21-year-old son all the time, dude, I know you don't like unsolicited advice, but think of it as an iceberg. This is the unsolicited advice. I am not saying all of this under the surface. Do you know how much I'm not saying to you that I want to say
That's
to
a good
you?
point.
My tongue
Yeah.
is bleeding from biting it
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
So how have you navigated working, providing, and this passion and this why?
Again, my wife truly she has been, she chose to remain at home to raise our children.
Okay. Much like your mom who did that during...
Correct, yes. And I feel like that's worked out really well for us. The first few years of my career, I didn't travel too much because I was on the radio or on TV. And then the next phase really got very travel intensive.
Because of the shows that you were doing?
Because I was a public speaker, and so I've traveled the world a million times over, and she couldn't always, if ever, go with me. So I would take turns. I'd take a boy with me now and then. She could come with me once every year or two. But I mean, she really is the glue in our family that held it all together. And now that my youngest is going to be a senior in high school, she's now back doing what she wants to do. She's a real estate agent, and she loves it. And I'm home a way lot more. So
how was the motivational speaking world? Because I do that, and it's it's a lot of output, and it can be lucrative and help provide for a family.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of speakers out there. There's a lot of authors out there. There's a lot of actors out there.
I try not to think of it
Right.
too much. It's really overwhelming.
It is.
I try to not look too much at LinkedIn.
Yes.
Because every day 100,000 new speakers are born or
Yes.
something. And
Yes.
everybody is speaking.
Yes.
And it's like, there can't be that many paying clients out there,
Well, listen,
really.
I get like 9 searches on LinkedIn each week. The little report comes,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't even know what my LinkedIn says. So I don't know if that's helping me or not. I mean, I visited it, but I think that's a really good point. From your 11-year-old self that gets rejected at this first audition for not looking like the boy of Jimmy,
Yeah.
right? To, okay, I'm going to live this passion, but if you go into comparisons too much,
Right.
I mean, I think really, I try to teach my kids that all the time. They've heard me say no to gigs.
Yeah.
They've heard me not get something. And I've said to them, you know what, if that's my why, I'm toast. Like,
Yeah.
that can't be my why.
Right.
So what's
right.
your why?
It's that.
He doesn't even know.
No, it's the money.
Yeah.
No. For me, my why is my family and the mental and physical well-being of every member of it. So that's the primary one, and then the secondary one is more of a selfish one, but it's just scratching the itch. It's being
Yes.
able to do what I not only what I love to do, but what I feel I'm so good at that I would secretively say I'm the best at that, and
Which you
I
have
want
to.
to be doing that,
You
and I
have
want
to.
to be
Yeah.
paid for it.
He wants money. He wants your money.
But that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, for me,
because you
it's-
know you're bringing added value.
Well, and I also know that I know that it is my primary responsibility to be the primary
Provider.
breadwinner in our home. And I always tell my wife, I don't ever want you to worry about that at all. Make as much or as little as you want or need to, but I believe it's my main role. You don't even have to work for money if you don't want. Just find what you're passionate about, and you be the one. You took care of these kids for so long and did all this hard work and kept this family together while I was off making money. But now that I'm back, we don't make as much. I don't care. I'd rather be the one who can be here and help and provide other things, and you go and do what you want.
So-
While I can still make some money. It's not, you kind of do
Yes.
this.
Well,
and
and
who
that's what I
cares?
was going to ask you. Like, that's kind of a revolutionary thought process out in the world today. And I feel that too, that because of what I do, people think when you write books and you're speaking, you're just John Grisham and,
Yeah.
J.K. Rowling, and we're not, and the percentage you get from the publisher after it's sold, and then
Oh,
Costco
yeah.
takes
you
it all.
better sell
and-
1 million copies
Yeah.
or you're not making
Yeah,
much.
exactly. And so,
Or have some ridiculous advance.
Right.
Which I've had, and you always feel bad that it never gets paid
yeah,
back.
yes, right. And so I think
So I don't get them anymore.
When you say to the world in so many ways, I see that as the father and the husband, especially coming from a single mom background, I see myself as the provider. Please understand that there's something very sacred and joyful about that. That's not to demean the contribution of women in the
right.
world. It's just to say that the nucleus of a family, as a father, and especially if you didn't grow up with that, you see the value of that stability.
Yeah.
So how have you navigated? Because I've gone through job loss for my husband, it is almost debilitating
Yeah.
when you do. My husband sees himself in that same way, when then you're not able to provide.
Yeah.
What have you done to navigate times where it's been very scarce?
That's a good question. I guess the only thing that I can think of is that it's because I've been my own self-employed entrepreneur for so long, with little bouts of full-time employment for the man. We're very used to lean times, but they're not so lean that, I mean, when we were first married, there was a time there before either of us were really educated. We got married very young. I had just turned 22. She was just barely 20. So we starved together.
Yeah.
We were both still in school.
Right.
We both had our income was ahead of us. And by the time we got there, she decided, once we started having kids, I don't want to go work. I want to stay here with them. And so at that point, we felt like we were doing what God wanted us to do, and we just never worried. And so we always basically just live in terms of what is His will. If we're broke, then that's what He wants, because
I love you.
We're living everything we're keeping the commandments that we feel we're supposed to keep. We're keeping ourselves in check. And whatever your will is for us, we can handle being poor.
I call them stewardship assignments. And when you call something a stewardship assignment, I got some Twitter trolls on this because they're like, you're saying that God causes... And I said, listen to me. I believe that God trusts us with things. Do you believe He only trusts you with your raise? He also trusts you with your bills or your bankruptcy. He trusted me with chronic illness and infertility. He also trusts me with a best-selling book, right? And so... when I see my life like that, then my kids aren't a property. And then I'm like, I've done the best I can, but then I'm not as hooked into then their choices or reflection on did I do a good job or not.
They're their own
His
people.
kids
Right.
that He trusted me with that assignment.
Yes.
And I believe that all of us are trusted with certain things. Stewardship assignment of being an actor, stewardship assignment of maybe LGBT or depression or anxiety or whatever, which I do a lot of work in. And I think when we look at it that way, that it's such a freeing perspective, because then you're like, oh, He trusted me with a broken down car. Okay. When my husband lost his job, he got skin cancer and the dog got killed. We were a very bad country song for like 6 to 9 months. We didn't even rhyme. I'm like, this is just lame. Like, everything about this is lame. And then we rented this house in West Lehigh, and there were donkeys outside our window all night long. I'm like, Disney does not make up that sound. Donkeys sound like donkeys all night long.
Oh, yes.
You know, so
yes.
I'm just saying to you that I validate.
You're praying and they're braying.
And they're, for sure. And so I love that you see that that I think it's such a freeing opportunity to kind of navigate some of the rougher times. If you can say, oh, it's a stewardship. And a steward is a watch caregiver, someone that's watching over that. Like, I don't own my car, it's God's car. I don't own my lawnmower, it's God's lawnmower. If
everything is a gift.
Yeah.
Everything
my
is
time,
on
my
loan.
life, my body, my everything.
Exactly.
How have you used comedy to help through raising children and creating connection?
I mean, you know, it's been the life.
Are you the funny dad at home?
I'd like to think so.
Or are they like dad joke for real?
I got all of that being raised in a similar home. My mom laughed through the tears of being a single mom. So we laughed. She cackled. We played a lot of games. We had a lot of fun. We took things serious that needed to be taken seriously with a degree of reverence for certain things. Right. But generally speaking, there just isn't any scenario in which you can't be laughing and smiling. You think about all the funerals. You know, the best funerals are the ones where people are celebrating a life and laughing and joking instead of the mourning. The comforter that Jesus sends, I mean, it's so that we don't.
It's joy.
How come people feel guilty because they don't feel so sad, or they don't. Yeah. It'll hit you later.
Right. I've done suicide humor, and I have to be really careful because people aren't always a little too soon. And I'm like, well, for me, it's
that may be one that's. I mean, there's some scenarios.
Listen, I got a DJ at my sister's funeral. I was in charge. I had the church. She liked a good dance party. Yeah. And Mormons, previously known as Mormons, didn't get a lot of dance parties. Yeah. So I have the church. All the older people in the family are like, what are we doing? Funeral potatoes and a DJ. And my one sister started crying when we were dancing because she knew that was where the joy was. Right. That was where Meg would want to be, right? When I was doing chemotherapy and my hair is falling out, man, I could do some hairless jokes, you know? And people are seriously, are you okay? And I'm like, you know what? It doesn't mean I'm not crying about it sometimes, but it's all the emotions. Right. It's all the feelings.
Everybody is going to go through
some stuff.
the vicissitudes of life. No one is, if you walk out on the street and look at 100 people, random adults, not necessarily children, but just adults.
Right.
How many of those 100 are carrying around with them some manner of grief, trials? Every stinking one of them has something that has a little weight on their soul.
Yes.
Well, no one is exempt. And yet when you look at those 100 people, 20, 30, sometimes 40 of them still have a twinkle in their eye and a smile on their face. And they're talking positively. They're not, wah, 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 woe is me. Hey, we all have woe, baby.
Right.
Some with varying levels.
Right. And
I
think the day Robin Williams took his life was the day we put my sister's headstone on. And I always say when people ask or interview me about suicide, I say, don't assume that you know who is the one. What you were just saying. Don't assume you know who's the one struggling with depression. The happiest guy at your job is likely the one who's fighting his biggest demon.
Yeah.
He's the first to help out. He's the first to crack a joke. And inside he may be fighting the biggest fight of depression ever. So don't assume you know. And don't assume that the famous Mormon actor dad is got it all together, because he's got his own stuff too, right?
Of course. Yeah. Oh, man.
So
that feels like a good place to end.
Where can people find you, book you? Are you still doing speaking? Do you still want to do acting gigs?
I still do all. So in answer to a previous question, right? I mean, my whole professional career has just been
word of mouth.
One gift after another from the heavens, as far as I'm concerned. It's word of mouth. It's referrals, things like that. I don't really play the hype game. Anything that I post,
exhausting.
Anything that I post,
it's authentic.
It's authentic. It's real, but it's mostly just it's mostly me trying to say, well, this is a way to have fun and be happy even when things are tough.
Which is why I watch your videos.
Or I want to share something about this hotel room I just stayed in. It's awful, and I'll say something. But I don't hype. I try not to hype. And
it's not calculated.
I get lost in a sea of hype out there.
Yes.
But the right people that need to find me at the right time
always do.
Find me. The budget's just right. I have it available on my calendar, and I go and I do the thing with them.
Thank you, brother.
So
that's exactly.
But ScottChristopher.net is just kind of a simple page, and then there's
look up Granite Flats and and I would say too, I don't follow some of the hype people because I can feel it, and it's crowded. There's so much chatter out there. So thank you for fighting to stay in that zone. And still try to be relevant, but trust God that He's got this story for you,
right? And
for your family. I appreciate that so much. In a world of a lot of plastic and Instagram filters, it's very refreshing. Thank you, Scott, for being here.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
And thank you for bringing humor. I think what a great suggestion. Try to laugh a little with your family tonight at dinner. Make light of something in a way that helps you get through the hard days. And thank you for joining us here on the Reconnect podcast. Please share this, especially if you know a fan of Scott's. There's a lot of them out there, and they may want to hear some of the backstory like I did. And thank you to the Story Studios and Anasazi Foundation for sponsoring this podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Reconnect podcast, presented by Anasazi Foundation. Are you worried about your teenager? Are they struggling with depression, low self-esteem, anger, drugs, or suicidal thoughts and feelings? If so, Anasazi Foundation can help. Anasazi is a wilderness therapy program for at-risk youth, and our mission is to help turn hearts homeward. To learn more about us, please visit anasazi.org. If you liked this show, please be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Thank you again.